My name is Q. I'm an event producer in the entertainment industry. This podcast is me and my colleagues talking about how we got into the business, offering career advice, and just chatting about whatever's happening in the world today. Please enjoy. That sounds fun, man. Have you just been, has it been hard for you to stay active since COVID started?
At first, when they shut down the gyms, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But now they've kind of like briefly opened them up. So it's kind of like, you like got to stay in your box. They only like let 4 or 5 people in the whole gym. So it's kind of like you're way away from everybody and doing your things. And then like you got to wear your mask until you start working out. And then you like got to disinfect it, like the whole thing. So, but now it's been all right. So
I gotcha. Yeah, like I'm a member at LA Fitness, and you know, once they opened up, it was just like, we don't care. Come on in. It was until like, yeah, man, they just did not care. They were just in a hurry to get people back in the building, which there was quite a few people.
You know, I was talking to my buddy about that, where it's just like, it's like this pro con. It's like, I mean, I get it. Like everybody's hurting, everybody's struggling, everybody's like, you know, trying to make money and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then it's just like, there's certain things where you just like, I mean, it's even, and it's kind of like, I feel like I guess I am a hypocrite for saying it's like, but at the same time, I was like, hey, like, LA, like those type of places, sometimes I'm like, all right, like, it's just, like, if you're not going to regulate, like, how many people are coming in there and just let people come and do willy-nilly and whatnot, then I'm like, I don't know. But at the same time, like, I'm going to the gym and doing my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, I'd prefer they just close everything down and then I can have no excuse and be like, all right, I have an excuse to be lazy.
Absolutely. Like my brother with 24-hour fitness, he said they have to actually like schedule time to go in the gym through the app. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym at 2:00, and they get the workout from 2 to 3. Then at 3:00 they clear out the gym and sanitize for like 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, that's a nice little system. They can be pretty. Yeah, you gotta get your stuff done in an hour. And a lot of gagging. Awesome, man. Well, did you get an opportunity to look at the script I sent you? I guess it was a while ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah, I was saying, I was going to actually ask, I was meant to text you that before the gym, because I did look at it, but then, yeah, like you said, it was a while ago, so I was like, I don't know what I do with this thing, so I know it's like some of my text messages.
All good. It's pretty much just me and you having a conversation as we were chatting in a room, drinking it up, and, you know, just being very candid and honest and open, you know, especially talking about our careers and how we got into the business and what we're doing so far and et cetera. And especially stuff that's going on nowadays, because a lot of stuff has been happening. So
for sure.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do my intro. Welcome to another episode of the Q It Up podcast. I have an amazing friend on the line who I had the pleasure of working with at the Houston Texans. This man is a professional athlete. He he had the opportunity to work on both sides of a NFL organization, and I speak to the business operations side and also the football operations side. After the fact, he is also pursuing a career in acting and doing other things. So this guy is just multi-talented. I would love to welcome to the stage Jenerro Wade with a J.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say the whole professional athlete realm, but you know, I'd say I'm a somewhat athlete.
Yeah, man. I mean, you was getting it in, man. I believe you played overseas, right?
I did. I mean, I guess that technically counts.
Yeah, absolutely. You was getting paid to play, right?
Sure. That is true.
You are an athlete, my friend. All right. So I just want to take this time for you to just tell the people a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I am, as Q stated, Jenerro with a J. Grew up here in Houston, Texas. Started off lived with my mom over off Braeswood, but then eventually moved over in the 3rd Ward, and that's kind of where I grew up. The majority of my life is over in 3rd Ward. Went to private school all my life, K through 12, St. Mary's, St. Peter's, Mount Carmel. They were, even though they were private schools, they were more of the lower income private schools. So, we had a lot of, we kind of got hit with like a lot of the rejects from charter schools sometimes, like people that got kicked out of charter schools and things like that. So, everybody just thinks like, oh yeah, private school, you must be rich or this and that. And I was like, nah, like not everybody. We were actually considered probably like, especially in high school, Mount Carmel, we were over there off of South Park, probably like right down the street from Sterling. And, it's just funny because like we were, I guess, considered the ghetto school of private school. So, we'll go to Second Baptist, we'll go to Lutheran North and all these Episcopal, all these places with like big money and, seeing all these gyms, all their players got names on the back of their jerseys. So, we're just kind of starstruck in those things. It's like, dang, must be nice. So, did that, played, normal high school kid. I played every sport, basketball, soccer, baseball, track, football, everything. So originally, really was heavy into soccer growing up. So when I was living off Braeswood, I had a lot of friends. Like most of my friends were all international kids. And that's how I got introduced to soccer. And honestly, like that was one of the first things I grew up playing before I kind of got roped into basketball and football and those sports. But then when I got towards middle school, my dad was a basketball player. He played at Blinn Junior College and ended up having a bad ankle injury. So he never got to move past college. So, I always had the aspirations of trying to be like him and pursue a basketball career and things like that. But my height didn't pan out. My dad's about 6'5", and I only rounded out to about 6 foot. So my hoop dreams kind of went out the window. Like towards my junior year of high school, like everybody just started growing taller than me. I shot up real quick at first. And, I don't know what happened there. So I'm convinced if I had a little brother, he would have been like 6'8" or something like that. So, but yeah, so then from there, I always wanted to do something. I was like, all right, what can I do to play at the next level? And I really kind of took a liking to football. Didn't touch a football till my freshman year of high school. Knew nothing about it. The most I ever did, maybe like the backyard football where you play something like that. But before then, never played organized football in my life. So it was a big learning curve from my freshman to sophomore year. And, at that time, like I am bigger than half of the guys, but then it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So trying to learn, trying to figure out what position I'm good at, what I can do here and things like that. So probably up into, so my first 2 years, I just played defense, just played DN because I was fast. So I just came off the corner, just sacking people. And I really wanted to get into the offense. And there was a guy, his name was John Nash. He actually, he played running back, and I just kind of always looked up to him. I was like, you know what? I want to do that. I think I can do what he does. So then that's what made me try to learn how to play running back. So my first few ones, don't know how I'm really supposed to be a running back, running straight up, getting popped in the chest. And, you learn real quick after all that. But then eventually, towards my senior year, I got pretty good at it and started getting some letters and got quite a few letters to go to like some schools and things like that. And then ended up deciding on going to William Penn University in Oskaloosa, Iowa. Don't ask me why I chose Iowa. I just, I saw it was the first scholarship that I had. And I was like, all right, like I'm going to go play in Iowa. So, but what also kind of turned me, one of my good buddies that I played basketball with, he actually went up there to play basketball. So we kind of went up there together, and it was kind of one of those things where I was like, all right, let's go see what it's like. So kind of like a big shock to go straight from here, never seeing snow, to going up there where the winters is just absolutely from there, played all 4 years up there. Ended up, after my career there, ended up deciding on going to get my master's. So I ended up going to London because I did my undergrad in psychology. Still didn't really know what I wanted to do, but then I was like, you know what, I still kind of want to be in the sports realm. So decided to go get my master's in international sports management. While I was out there, this is like the first time, school out there is a little bit different. Like I wasn't on a campus. I was kind of in a city school, and I just really got bored. Really just was like, I wonder what kind of, I honestly was looking for like a rec league or something to play for. And just did some Google searches and stuff like that, and ended up finding a league, ended up emailing the coach, and ended up, he told me to come try out, went and tried out. Then I had a spot right after I tried out that day. So, it was really cool playing out there. You got guys of all different skill levels. For the most part, a lot of guys didn't start playing till later on in their career, just because, it was kind of the early phases of American football in Europe. So, they had a few leagues and things like that. And then obviously with the NFL starting to do the international games, people started picking up on it. People wanted to learn, create leagues and play on them. So a lot of the guys that I played with had a rugby background. So, it's not like you just don't know anything, but there are different, the different skill levels and the different, footwork and position specific movements, you just don't get with some of the rugby, but, obviously tackling and, the physicality of the game, these guys were kind of used to. So went out there, played for about 3 seasons, ended up winning so the league is set up kind of like soccer. So it's set up kind of like the Champions League. So if you win your domestic league one year, you get put into the international tournament the following year. So when I first joined the team, they had won their domestic league the year prior. So honestly, like my first couple of games, we're playing in playoff games. So in the international tournament. So that was like kind of weird where you're just like, oh, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we're in playoff games. Like how? Like we just started the season. So then, but that year we ended up taking it all. We ended up winning the European Championship. So 2012 European champions, and then ended up capping it off by winning the domestic league again. So we won the Brit Bowl and then the Ep12 championship that year. So basically you're kind of like double champs and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. Nice. It was a great experience. I always say I feel like it's a very underrated league where a lot of guys really don't. They think I was like, oh, I didn't make it to the NFL yet, or I didn't make it in the CFL team. Like, what do I do next? There are a lot of good leagues out there, and people are trying to find talent out there. So I recommend to guys who are just looking for other options that they still want to continue to play. Like the leagues are slowly growing, especially coming from like some of the bigger schools, like, just your experience and knowledge of you can be kind of that coach / player to help out on the teams with some of those knowledge and things like that. So after my last season with the Blitz, I did a few internships with NFL UK, worked the international series games, just kind of got some experience there in their PR department. So that was my first experience being on NFL sidelines, and just kind of, I'm kind of like starstruck at this point because, it's like, oh, this is so cool. I get to see, like, I'm in the locker room with Tom Brady and got to talk to Wes Welker and things like that. And what's funny, ironically, like I ended up working with Wes later on, and I asked him if he remembered me talking to him then. He was like, But that was always a funny comment. That was like, like back then, who would have knew I would like been coworkers with this guy. So, so that was like my first experience with it. The visa situations are always kind of tricky trying to work in Europe or just overseas period, just because of visa laws. And, if you're not at a certain level, like they're probably not going to sponsor you. And so that's kind of the hard part, especially, working in sports. You got to kind of, if you don't know the right people, you got to kind of start at the ground floor and work your way up. So, nobody's going to really pay the money to sponsor you when you just entry level or internship positions and things like that.
Yeah.
So ended up coming back to the U.S. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty devastated because I kind of in my mind made up, this is my life. I'm gonna work in Europe. I had a little side job working in the theater and things like that. So like I was having a lot of fun out there. So when I had to come back, it was just kind of like starting all over from square one. So a month, probably me moving back to Houston, I started going to a lot of job fairs and things like that. It's, the job fairs are what they are. I mean, you go, you listen to people, you take the advice from like, the representatives that are there. But I mean, you're one of 200, 300, 400 people. So it really is a crapshoot. And, it like, you're not getting a lot of time with a certain representative. So, it is kind of hard to just, everybody trying to give their, 2-minute elevator speech and, they've been talking to everybody. So it is kind of hard to make yourself stand out. But at the same time, it only takes that one opportunity to meet somebody, to make that impression, and things can happen. And that's what kind of happened to me. So I ended up going to Dream Job, which is one of the Texans, their job fairs, things like that. So, and this was like the last one that I was going to. I went to like MLB, I went to an NBA, I went to an MLS one. So I was just kind of burnt. I was like, you know what, like, I don't really want to go to the job fair. And actually my mom forced me to go to this one and really didn't want to go. So I just went just because, did the whole spiel, learned from everybody, talked, did my elevator speech to everybody. And then I was actually on my way out and going down the escalator, me and another guy named Sterling, we were just talking to each other. And we're going, like, literally leaving. And then there was another lady behind us, funniest lady ever. So she, friendliest, we just started talking. We just hit it off. Had no clue who she was. And then we ended up just talking for maybe like 15, 20 minutes in the lobby. Again, had no clue she was a Texans representative.
Wow.
And then her name was Holly Daigle.
Nice.
And so then right then and there, she asked, she's like, hey, like, we have some spots open in our part-time events team, like, send me your resume, blah, blah, blah. So right then and there, it was just a really luck of the draw, like, that I went down the escalator with her. Like, I didn't even see her in the mix of like the people with the booths and stuff like that. I just so happened to be walking down the elevator with her. So, it's just like, people, it just takes that one opportunity for stuff to happen. And I got very lucky with it and made a good impression. So then ended up doing my interview, and then that's how I kind of got on with the Texans. So spent 6 seasons with them. I made the most of everything because I feel like I jumped around every department that there was. I started off in the events, which is just part-time. You're working with kids, you're working with inflatables, you're just out there just kind of doing the grunt work, really. It's fun. Like, it's the experience that you're getting to experience. Again, it's one of those first time you're getting to be around these people and instances and stuff like that. So, it's just fun. But at the same time, you gotta work your butt off, and you gotta make the position what it is. Because there are a lot of times where you do a lot of work and you might not feel appreciated, or you might feel like I have a master's degree. Like, why do I want to just why do I want to just put up inflatables, or why am I just being kind of a glorified babysitter to cheerleaders or things like that. So that was kind of some of the thought process that go in your mind. But if you go into it with a good attitude, show people your work ethic, and, you just kind of have to kind of make that position what it is. So, exactly. And that's what I essentially did. So ended up, I knew right away, I kind of saw that the internship that I really wanted was on the football operations side. So it was kind of a longer route.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You back?
This is what happens when you put your phone on the charger.
Let me make sure.
I didn't even realize I was that low. I don't even know how long I was talking to myself.
I as soon as you clicked off and you were still on, I was just like, he's probably still talking. Because you was holding your phone like this, and like, I wonder how long it's gonna take him to look down and see his phone's not on. No, man, that's awesome. So we stopped at you making that trend. You said the internship you really wanted was in the football ops area. That's where you stopped at the store.
Oh. So, so the after looking at all the different internships that the Texans had to offer, there was a lot of different internships. You can go into the marketing side, you can go to the events side, you can go accounting, you can go corporate, whatever. I enjoyed events, I enjoyed marketing, but the one that really stood out to me was on the football operations side. It was just, it just felt more like what I wanted to do. Like people, I guess those who don't know much about the sports world, you do get to interact with, the team and things like that, but you're not really like going out to practice every day. You're not, going with the team on places and stuff like that. So that's what really stood out to me because, being a former player, that's what I guess felt more at home for me, where I still felt like an extension of playing. Really looked at how to get onto the football ops side and things like that. And it was just kind of a longer process to get over there. Cause I mean, the running joke is like, that's the glamorous side over there is on the football side. Cause I mean, you get all the gear, you get to travel with the team, you get to, you're going out to practice all the time, things like that. So especially coming in from the ground floor is like super hard. So it's kind of like a 3-phase process where, you start off as kind of like just the summer training camp intern. And then if you do get there, then you get to become the part-time intern. And then after that, if you prove yourself then you became the full-time intern. So, it's kind of like a long 3-season process. So in between those times, after the first go around as the summer intern, what they always say is like out of sight, out of mind. So keep yourself in the building, keep yourself visible. People know that you're a hard worker, things like that. So after I did that, ended up getting the marketing internship. And so I worked on the marketing side. So I got to learn that whole side of the business. So, putting on all the events and different things for corporate, how that went on. Learned how to, the different things of game day production and just learn all that facets of it. So, that was the real, and I credit a lot of that. And I feel like that's honestly helped me in a lot of different ways as well. Just being able to know both sides of the business. Because eventually, I feel like it gave me a leg up, or knowing how certain things operated or who to contact for certain things if things arose. So after I kind of did the part-time and the summer internship, I finally got my opportunity to do the full-time internship. So best, probably one of the best years ever. I mean, you're working like crazy. You are there before everybody, you're usually leaving after everybody. So it's that thankless job. But it was fun. It's fun being for me, I liked being in service to people. It was that, like, especially when people appreciate you, where it's just like, hey, like, you always come through for me if I need something. If something, you do it right away. People aren't chasing you for that. And that's what I kind of prided myself on. And that was kind of my work ethic of just like, trying to learn what people need, what they want, and then eventually having it done before they even have to ask. And so that was kind of my mindset, kind of my approach to everything, my day-to-day thing. So, so at the end of that first year, there was a transition process. And, there was just a lot of things up in the air. So I kind of was trying, I kind of did all the extra legwork of, writing a proposal of, seeing if they would consider creating a position, another full-time position, or why I deserve a full-time position, things like that. So kind of I wanted to do up beyond. I wanted to do everything that I could do to say that if I don't get this, I can say genuinely is like, well, I mean, I don't know what else I could have done. So with all that said, it didn't work out the way I quite wanted it to. So then we lost our former general manager, Rick Smith, and then they brought in Brian Gain. So then it was kind of like all the legwork that I had put in, all the hard work that he had seen me do, it was kind of like starting all over again. So Brian didn't know me from Adam. So it was kind of like, he didn't go through that season with me. So he don't know me. He doesn't know my work ethic. So it was kind of like, so then I made the decision of myself, you know what, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take this internship position. Again, at this point, I'm at probably like 31 years old. I was like, you know what, let's do it. Like, hey, if this is what it got to take, this is what it takes. So I asked if I could stay on for another season, and I was granted that opportunity because, my direct supervisors, they enjoyed the work that I did and things like that. And again, like, at that point in my life, I felt like, I could do the job with flying colors. I could do it blindfolded, but I had to go back to doing, the thankless jobs, to doing the airport runs, the early morning wake up calls, and, the things that, restocking refrigerators and things like that, like the unglamorous stuff as well. So, but, I enjoyed it. I felt like I approached my everyday as, if this isn't done, this isn't making the team better. And I genuinely did that with pride of like feeling like I brought something to that team. My biggest ask.
I hate to interrupt you, but I just wanted to show that the year that I left, you were still on the team, and that was the year the Texans were on Hard Knocks. You single-handedly saved the team during that Hard Knocks situation where somebody left. I think they left the pads or the jerseys or whatever. It was jerseys. They left the jerseys back in Houston, and they were off in, I want to say, Atlanta or whatever.
Yeah, that was they went to Virginia to go play the Washington franchise. And they there was, so again, it's hectic during training camp. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's easily able to forget something or something to get misplaced. That's why operations exist, because you gotta have order, you gotta have structure, because things can go awry. So we actually had training camp that day. So tons of fans out on the field watching training camp. About 10 a.m., we go through the whole lot of practice. And so then as soon as practice is over, we're loading up buses by probably like 1, 2 o'clock trying to get out to go to the team is going to Richmond. So, there's stuff everywhere. As soon as the guys they're literally throwing their stuff off, getting in the shower, putting their suits on to get on the bus. So at some point, the practice jerseys got loaded into the wrong bin, and that never made it onto the truck. And I just remember the bus left, everything. I think I was going back inside because I had to stay on that trip because I wasn't traveling yet. And I got a phone call from our VP of operations, Doug West. He was just like, I need you to go see if this case is here. I was like, yep, is this what it is? looked inside of it, was like, yep, it's the jersey. So right then and there, I threw them in a box, taped it up as quick as I can, threw them in the back of a truck, and I don't condone this, but I was going about 100 miles an hour down 59 trying to make the plane, because I was trying to keep them on schedule. So they didn't want to be waiting around for everything else had to go as normal. So I was trying to make up, they got police escorts going through lights, going as fast as they can. So they were, I'm sitting in traffic, trying to keep through traffic, things like that. So, and narrowly missed them. Like, soon as I made it to the tarmac, I could see the plane backing out. I was like, oh, I missed it about like barely 5 minutes. It was crazy. And so I was like, then you start thinking, it's like, oh, if I would have like made this slide, or if I would have made this thing, but unfortunately, so then I just kind of got it onto one of the other charter flights. And then it ended up going to like Delaware, and one of the interns that went on that trip had to like drive up to Delaware to go pick it up. So it was crazy.
I wasn't with the team when that happened, and it was for a few months. But when I saw it on the show, I immediately texted you. I'm like, I know who this is. It is one of those stories. I honestly forgot about that till you just brought it up. It was one of those stories like you have a story for life. It was like, hey, how did the jerseys get up there? Well, let me tell you about it. So, but they only missed one day. It was just the only thing that didn't make it up there were the QB jerseys. So like the QB jerseys were in actually a different box. So by the time I got back to the stadium, I found out the QB jerseys were somewhere else. So the regular jerseys, all the players had them, but the QB jerseys were the only ones that didn't make it. So then I had to overnight those, and it was a crazy situation. And then it got showcased on Hard Knocks, where our QBs had to wear like Redskins jerseys for that. It was pretty funny. TV.
Oh yeah, it was great TV. So going into my second year, just like I said, it was a lot of different changes. So usually when a general manager gets changed over, that's when a lot of the football operations staff kind of gets changed over, and there's different set of rules. There's a different vision, different direction, things like that. So that's usually kind of what happens when, new general managers come around. They bring their scouts in, they bring their staff in, things like that. So again, like I said, I had to it was like starting all over from square one. So I was like, all right, let me prove myself again. So again, felt like I did all that I could do. I busted my butt that year, tried to replicate as much as I did that year. There was a lot of things. So instead of them hiring a full-time, they actually added an intern. So there was 2 full interns of us that year. So there was a lot of things that got taken off of me, so I didn't have to do as much. But then, with that, there are some of the perks that get taken away too. So like I didn't get to travel to every game and things like that. So, it was just one of those things where you're like, it's easy to get bummed out where it's like, dang, I feel like I busted my butt enough to deserve this or this and that. And that's just the sport business, unfortunately. And, it's just, you have to approach it with the mindset of always having to prove yourself. All right, what you did yesterday, that's great, but what are you doing today to make the team better? What are you doing? Are you doing everything right 100% of the time? Because again, just like in sports, you make one mistake, it's everything, so like you can do it right 99% of the time, and then that 1% that you mess up, hey, that can screw up. You don't have jerseys at practice, you don't have this going on and things like that. So that's kind of how you have to approach it. But that year I kind of took the lead with so going back to the things that I learned on marketing, with Deshaun coming in, things like that. So one of my duties at practice was running game day music, practice music, things like that. And so, I kind of got the free reign after my second or third practice. Coach O'Brien was kind of like, hey, you take the reins, go ahead. You know what the guys like, play it, sometimes, I'll play some stuff that Coach O'Brien doesn't like. He'll yell at me. It's all fine. Sometimes I'll play stuff that the guys don't like. It'll be fine. It's just funny because, like, what really kind of gets you is, like, sometimes, I feel like, obviously these guys are my peers. And, some of the vets we're about the same age, but, some of the younger guys, they're fresh out of college, 21, 22, 23 years old. So, like, they're listening to things that I didn't listen to, and some of the things that I thought were good, they didn't like. So, I'll try to do a throwback day. Everybody's booing me and things like that. So, we're just all mess on the speaker and, talking about what's good music, what's compared to what's not, and things like that. So I think that was probably my funnest thing, just kind of interaction and, like, actually having real interactions with guys and things like that, versus just like, like, oh my God, that's Deshaun. Oh my God, that's D-Hop,
Yeah.
So, generally know each other, do a lot of different things for them, and, they very grateful, and, so, but then that bled over into me trying to work with our senior director of marketing, Jackie Maldonado. And she, I know it was like going into the very first game. Some of the guys pitched, they was like, hey, can we play some of this music at some of the games? And the Texans is, a very conservative organization. And there wasn't just a lot of rap music being played or things like that, and there was just certain instances and certain times that some of the guys wanted certain things played. So especially, like, just kind of a hype song right before going on special teams on kickoff, or like when Deshaun's coming out, like he vibes certain music and certain tunes. And, like, I started to realize that, and I was like, this helps. So, so I know some of the coaches was like, hey, we want to try and get this done. So, like, I gave her a heads up about everything before they approached her about it. And this is literally like the night before, I think, the first preseason game. And so, like, like, that's a lot of different things that kind of like spin around. But, credit to her and Gavin and things like that. They got it done. And, it went off with a success. And, it started working out. And so it was one of those things where, like, I felt nobody knew, and, like, not that I want credit or anything like that, but, like, it was one of those things where it's like, having that bridge to be able to, like, hey, we created this, atmosphere, we created this vibe and things like that, so I thought it was really cool with that. So, I may have gotten Jackie in trouble a few times with some other things, just the politics of the organization a little bit, where, sometimes, football doesn't want business ops telling them what to do. Business ops doesn't want football ops telling them what to do. So things like that sometimes can be, troublesome waters. But, then, me, I'm like, oh, I've come from both sides. I can just merge the gap. But, so it didn't really work out all that. So, but yeah, but ended that year. I was a little frustrated at the very end of that year, because, again, like, I felt like I did all I could do. So from there, I ended up moving on. And at that point, I really wanted to stay in the league. Our team got, my manager, Khalil Reed, he got Operations Manager of the Year. I felt like I helped support him in that and things like that. So, like, I was, I felt like it was my award too. So I feel like we did that together. Like, our whole department, like, I felt like our department was it. We were family. Like, I loved our little family. Ray, Eva, Doug, Khalil, like, we had a nice little team together. But after that year, ended up moving on. And then I just really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. So again, like I said, like, it's hard, and at that point, again, I had done 4 years of internships on the football ops side, and, the few opportunities that I had were other internships. And I was just kind of like, I don't want to do no more internships. Yeah. And, I kind of struggled with that decision. I had an opportunity to go work at the league office in an internship position. And then I had another opportunity to go work for the Jets in the football ops position. And it was just, and I turned them down both. And, like, I know, like, you know, you got to go in those situations of like, you know, can't have regrets. You got to move forward, but you know, you can't help but think is like, you know, what if, who could I've met, things like that. But things kind of worked out the way I kind of wanted. You know, I was kind of feeling like, you know, I want to try something else. I want to do something else. And things kind of led me into the position that I am in now. So as you stated, like I had always kind of had a little interest in acting. You know, when I was in London, one of my part-time jobs was working in the West End at a theater. And so, you know, like most of my friends are all actors and things like that. So like I really got to learn a lot about it. So, you know, it's just like, you know, I did high school plays, did electives in college and things like that, just to have fun. You know, like my whole senior year was like full of like arts classes because I didn't have any, I just needed to fill my schedule and I just needed stuff. And then, but never realized it's like, you know what, let's try this for, you know, to see where it goes. So ended up just going over a few random acting classes and stuff like that, and really took a liking to it. And I was like, it teaches you to break down everything that you learn as an adult. All your inhibitions, all your insecurities, to just have fun. It really takes you back to your most purest level of just being a kid and just imagining and having fun and just, you know, just kind of just letting loose and not caring about what people think or whatever. So like that was like really, you know, I think one of our first classes, we were doing one of the exercises where it was a physical exercise where we're just kind of like, we're being kids, we're doing this, we're like doing like nursery rhymes and doing all these like crazy little things. And, you know, like at first, you know, like, it was like, I'm an adult, I'm not going to do this stuff. But then like after a while, you're getting into it. You're just like, then you like I said, you just feel your purest form of joy and just your purest form of just letting loose and just like enjoying life. And so, so then that's what really kind of got me started with it. And at that point in time was right when I was had the opportunity to either go to the Jets or stay here. So then I had another job, like a kind of working in an operations job with Shepherd, which is a logistics company for trade shows where, you know, you go around to different shows, you know, car shows, boat shows, whatever type of shows in convention center. So I was like, all right, I can do this, stay home, and then, you know, kind of do acting on the side and see where it goes. And that was my thought process. And I was good with it. One of my coaches in my acting classes, he's a director as well, so he actually ended up casting me in one of his plays. So I got to be in one of his plays like a couple months into acting. So I wanted to leave. And so like I was just like, what is this? What is this? So, you know, it's been pretty fun. He did a movie as well, and, you know, I was in his movie and, you know, got to go to the premiere and things like that. You know, they're smaller productions, but then it's like the feeling of euphoria that you get from it is just so much fun. And it's just like, you know, like I was like, this is awesome. So I can only imagine what it's like to go to like a, you know, a Hollywood red carpet premiere, and, you know, you're walking down or working with, you know, The Rock or Hugh Jackman or whoever. Like, so like, you know, like that, like that's what it's like. You know, it's like, I mean, like my goal isn't to be like, oh, I want to be the next Denzel or anything like that. But like, you know, there's so many actors. You know, like I feel like everybody does them in everything, and you're just like, it's like, oh, that's such and such. They usually call him the character that you know him by. And so I was like, you know, I just want to be that guy. Where it's like, you know, you can still go out and have a regular life. You know, it's like you'll get recognized here and there, but, you know, you can go out in public and live a life. So I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. So, but yeah, it's a different direction in life, where it's just kind of like, you know, it's like, and that's where it's kind of like, hey, let's try it. If I don't like it, hey, let's move on. And I feel like I've always kind of had that attitude of like, I'd rather try something and then be like, all right, not feeling it, and then move on. You know, like you can't be afraid of, you know, feeling like, oh, you're a failure if you don't succeed in this. Or it's like it's okay to walk away from things where it's like, hey, like I did that, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
You found it was. you find out what is your niche. I feel like we get stuck in these instances of life where a lot of people will, they think, oh, well, I'm at this point in my life, so I have to have this structure, or I got to be at this point in my life and things like that. And I get it. Life happens. If you got kids, if you're married and all these things, like, yeah, you got responsibilities, but at the same time, like, like, hey, like, there's nothing wrong. Like, you can always find ways to chase your dreams, things like that. So, but moving forward from Shepherd, ended up actually, my mom actually, she owns the dental office here in Houston, and she actually kind of got sick around probably about a year ago today. And, I kind of stepped in and kind of helped take over and kind of make sure that, that place still ran and things like that. So, like, she was out for maybe like 4 months. So I was everybody looked to me for the leadership in that. And so what's funny is because, like, all the things that I did with the Texans, I feel like prepared me for that moment, where I knew what department needed to do this. I knew what needed to go here. I knew operationally how it needed to move. I just had to learn the actual dentistry side of things, of, like, the day-to-day, how does, insurance work? How does, the patient flow works? And then once I learned all those things, then it was kind of like, all right, now put the systems in place to make it work efficiently. So that's what I've been doing the last year now, doing that, and then doing the acting, just steadily taking more classes, and I'll get off from work and then I'll go straight to do a class or something like that. I've been, obviously right now with COVID and everything, a lot of our stuff is online, so we've been doing maybe 3 days a week. I'll do some type of improv or film study or different things, just trying to perfect my craft. So hopefully once this ends, I want to get more into like stunts and learning, maybe it's like some, the basic dance, things like that. If I want to ever get, to musicals on stage and things like that, just to kind of diversify my background. Just like, it's funny that the arts fits so much into like an athlete, of just like, all right, you still got to go practice these skills to become great. And so having that background in sports, I feel like it's definitely conducive of, being very, very direct and very motivated in the acting field. So, that's one of the biggest things that they talk about, is just like, so many people come in, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be the next Brad Pitt, but do they do anything? Practicing? Are they going to auditions? Or they just, they just go.
Lost you again.
They'll go to like, all right, like, it doesn't work like that. So it's a tougher process than you would think to, kind of get the little things in order and get, prepare for auditions and kind of film study and things like that, and how to properly prepare for a character that, things that, you just don't ever really think about. You're like, oh, like, it's the imagination game. So, you're putting yourself in that character's shoes of like, the simplest things. What do you see? What do you smell? What's around you? And putting all those factors into your mind to help build that character's story. So, but
do you feel like that passion will also lead you to going behind the camera as well, into the producer director role?
I honestly was thinking about that the other day. And I think, again, going back, everything seems like leads back to the operations. That is one of the things I feel like I can thrive at, because of the operational structure that, to me, I feel like operations is like producing. It's all the little things, making sure everybody is at where they need to be at whatever certain time, making sure this is ready to go at this certain time. The director's like the head coach, whatever he wants, you got to get it to him when he needs it and things like that, because he's directing the show, he's running the team, things like that. And then you got all your, support players and things you got to make sure, and then I feel like the actors are kind of like the players. It's like, hey, like, they gotta make sure they're doing the right things and be ready to go when it's time to perform. And so I've honestly there have been a few things that have kind of been on my mind, of like trying to learn how to do some screenplays and kind of want to, I don't know if I ever want to sit in the director's chair, but I definitely would want to help produce something, like kind of be the lead producer on certain projects. Because I do have a couple of ideas in mind that I think could run off. So who knows? We can see. I know I've been looking at some of those classes as my next goal to kind of get into, to kind of diversify my background. So, and then at first I kind of went into it with this, like understanding what directors and producers want by learning screenwriting and things like that. And then you can kind of, see how the characters are built up. And then I feel like, to me, it's easier to understand what certain directions want. But obviously things kind of go in certain ways. So, but yeah, we'll see. I might have some projects might come out here soon.
That'd be dope, man. I'm really excited about that, man. Like we were talking before the protest. One thing I would recommend is, a lot of these guys that are being put on now are utilizing the tools they have available in front of them, and that is social media and YouTube and stuff like that. And you just wasn't sure at that moment. Has that changed for you? Will we be seeing skits and different things on a social media platform just to test waters out with your skills?
So that's, I've heard different, and it's all subjective, and there's different people doing different things. I would love to create some actual skits. I know a lot of people watch like the Instagram comedians here, and they kind of put little 1 minute, 2 minute skits on Instagram and things like that, just to kind of get attention, and kind of and to me, that's just fun in general. And to me, that every little bit helps. Just kind of again, just like we talked about with at the dream job, it only takes one person to really kind of see something and be like, hey, I like what they got. Let's try this. Also been looking at, creating my website to kind of have, some of my skits, some of my monologues and things that I filmed. And eventually, once I get more work, then I can, create my reel and, kind of have my background story. And then, if somebody types my name in, they can go up and just see what I got. And then they can be like, oh, yeah, we like this person. Let's book them for a job. So.
Nice. All right. So take a break from you telling your story to do something a little bit fun. This is called Top 5. I usually do this for the icebreaker, but we kind of dive right into the conversation. We're about an hour in. But Top 5, I initially wanted to know, when I do Top 5, I usually ask people their, favorite rappers. This is something we used to do at the Houston Rockets to get to know that person, to kind of be the icebreaker. But now that you're getting into motion pictures, I want to know your top 5 motion pictures. It can be TV or film.
Top 5 motion pictures. Ha. So let's see.
And no limits on it, man. It can be animation, it can be real life, it can be a drama, it can be a play, whatever you want it to be.
I gotcha. So my first one that pops in my head is Twister.
Really?
That was my movie back in the day. I watched it maybe 1,000,000 times during that summer that it came out. So funny story, when I was in 3rd grade, I really wanted to be a tornado chaser. Me and one of my buddies, we had convinced that we were going to be tornado chasers when we got older. And so then that was kind of the summer it came out, and I was just all in the tornadoes, and it was just one of those things. So that was my first one. My next one probably would be, I do love, you can't go wrong with Back to the Future. Back to the Future is just that classic. I'll put all 3 of them into that category. It's just, I can sit up and watch those all the time. Same, going throwback, the original Ghostbusters. I can watch those all day, every day. Those are just, just mindless comedy, fun, and just, they're just classics. Was that 3?
Yes.
4. I'm kind of a nerd. So my last 2 are going to be two sci-fi fixes. I love Star Trek,
Okay.
space, Star Wars, so we can lump all the, living in space movies all into one. I just love the aspirations of like the thought process of aspiring to something greater. And I always think about that in life of just like, of course, like, the pioneers, like how brave, like, it's like a lot of them, they're just doing regular life. It's like, hey, I want to go move here to better land or move the other side of the world because like I hear it's great over there. But, especially back then, it's like you moving away from everything, you were moving away from family, from friends, everything. And you're never seeing these people again. So it is kind of interesting to see like the stories of like, the dystopian where they go, I think, I forget what the movie was called, but it was like the one with Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt where like, they do the sleep, the suspended animation, but then like, they're traveling 300, 400 years to get to a certain place. And then like, they're starting anew. And like, that's crazy. Cause then you think about it, I was like, well, shit, like everybody you ever knew is gone. You're never going to see them again. So like, to me, that's just like very ambitious to me. And like, I just love, space travel and just anything that just aspires like to be better than ourselves and to do stuff for the greater good. And then my last one is Doctor Who.
Really?
I came across this in London and it's been like my favorite. And it's kind of the same concept of, traveling through time, space, and adventure and just kind of like, just being an explorer. And I think that's my biggest theme of just being an explorer and having an adventure while you're doing it and, being a good person or solving problems to help others. So
that's really dope, man. That's a very diverse list, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Nobody would probably think of those lists.
Twister, you started off with something crazy, man, with Twister. I was like, I love Twister as a movie, but put it in top 5? I was like, never.
I mean, as you're like, I don't know. To me, I won't say cinematically it's probably the best movie out there. if we wanted to go like in that category, then we go there. But for me, just to enjoy, I can put it on anytime and then just enjoy that. If we are going more in the like what's really just out there, that's good work. Mm-hmm. Oh, we can go obviously with Disney Plus just coming out with Hamilton and everything like that. I love that show. It's very I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's really good. Just think that the complexity that they've like how they intertwine, like especially just the different song types, with rapping and singing and everything. So it's pretty good. I don't know. You definitely should check it out. But yeah. What else? Yeah. I think that's about it. That's all I can think of.
Awesome. So we did go. Oh, I'll let you get situated before we start back up.
I'm good.
Okay. So we did go to the protest that was here in Houston for George Floyd. That was about a month or so ago. And, that fight is still going. Still more stuff happening. Hashtag Karens on social media. Still fighting for Breonna, her killers to be arrested. All these different things are happening. What does the Black Lives Movement mean to you? Black Lives Matter movement, excuse me.
It obviously it means a lot, obviously being a Black man. But it means to me, I just want, because again, I pride myself in being friends with people of every, all sorts of races, all different creeds, things like that. And that's part, like, I love to travel. And that's, to me, that's part of the allure of traveling, is learning about people, learning about their way of life, their culture, their customs, just being able to, you're doing something that's just normal, yet it's so different. And I think a lot of times that we just, and sometimes by sure life, like, areas you grow up in, like, you're not exposed to certain people. Going back to my time in Iowa, I had a lot of friends, they came from small towns, and like legitimately when they came to university was their first time ever actually seeing a Black person in person. And that's crazy to think about in 2020, like, especially if you haven't traveled, if you just from these small little towns, like, I can see how that can happen. So to me, it's about us learning about each other, learning to accept each other, learning to not be scared of one another. There's going to be bad apples on both sides. Like, there's just going to be the people who are just out there who just don't care. They're going to try to start mess, or they're not going to try to learn about the other person and just stick to their guns. But to me, this movement has really been about I feel like it's really opened the eyes and made people question the things that probably it seems like it should have been questioned a long time ago. Like, I feel like we've been questioning it, but like now people of other races are starting to question the things like, wait, is this stuff really happening? Let me hear out people. Different things like that. And it's been interesting. I've had some interesting conversations with some friends that, that on the other side politically than me, that didn't know a few things about me. And, some of these guys I consider some of my best friends. And, it's things that, like, it is one of those things you don't think about, but, you don't go just like, oh, yeah, let me tell you about what I've experienced as a Black man, Yeah. But, you don't know what you don't know. So, I opened up a few people's eyes when I've told them about certain things that has happened to me. And I always say the biggest form for people to really understand is when they have empathy to somebody that they know. Yeah. It's, like it's like, yeah, you watch this George Floyd thing, like, you can't help but feel anger and pain and sadness and everything opposite that did happen. But at the same time, I can see how a lot of people can, after the outrage is kind of settled, then they go back to their everyday lives. Mm-hmm. Because it's not affecting them every day, or it's not affecting anybody that they know. And that's where I say we have to get out there and meet people and become friends with people that aren't like us. And when things do happen like this, it's easier for them to empathize with it sometimes. If, like, say, because it's not, I understand it's not easy. Like, like, you're taught what you're taught. So again, like, with anything. So like they always say racism is taught. You're not born racist. So like, if you're just exposed to that racism, that's what you're going to grow up as, and then when something happens, it's like, you don't care because, like, you don't have anybody that you can empathize with, or, that you feel like, wait, this isn't right. Like, you would think, like, of course you would think everybody, like, you should be able to empathize with everybody's rights. Like, no, like, everybody should know wrong is wrong, right is right, whatever, thing like that. But it's just sometimes I feel like there's just the little factors of, the biases and things like that people don't understand until it happens to somebody they know, or it happens to them. And so, like, that's why I always encourage people to, like, don't just stick in your groups. Diversify your friends and have all sorts of friends and things like that too. And then, when things are said that are out of line, educate them, especially now it's been kind of the, obviously social media is used as it's good and bad at the same time. Because like it's a very powerful tool. And, I've had it where it's automatically, if somebody says something that you don't like, your first reaction is like, I'm just going to delete them. But instead of deleting them, have those tough conversations. I actually had an interesting conversation with one of our old coworkers, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And we, we sat down and, he's, he has his beliefs and I have my beliefs. And we weren't trying to convince each other. It wasn't, just kind of a jab fight. It was a genuine conversation. And I feel like we grew closer because of it, because I explained to him why certain things made me feel this way. I explained to him why, certain laws, this and that, how it discriminates against, people like me and people that look like me and things like that. And then he explained why certain things, why he believes certain things and kind of the background he grew up in. And it was a very genuine conversation. And that's what I challenge everybody to do, is to have those genuine conversations with people and, not just, shy away from it. And it was funny because when we brought the conversation back up, it's he actually asked me to have that conversation back when I was still with the Texans, but I shied away from it because I was like, nah, I like Jonathan. I was like, I don't want to say something that's going to offend him, or he say something that I'm not going to like, and then we fall out and things like that. But there's difficult conversations, and I feel like that's how we get to know each other and, kind of solve some of these issues. So, but, I feel like it's definitely been powerful as far as in sports and everything else. Obviously, working in NFL, the biggest polarizing thing was the Kaepernick kneeling issue.
Just going to ask you about that.
And, it was one of those things, especially, working in the league at that time, and then as a black man supporting him. But it's kind of frowned upon because, it's kind of polarizing, and it was just so much misunderstanding about it.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I feel like a lot more people are understanding, but it was just so much misunderstanding where people thinking is the kneeling is about disrespecting the military or disrespecting the cops or disrespecting things. It was a peaceful protest that was actually it was told a former Navy SEAL told him,
mm-hmm.
Still Green Beret, I can't remember. I know one of my friends is going to give him if I don't get this right. But I know he's the one who told him, I'd feel more respectful if you take a knee. And then it just became everything that it wasn't supposed to be, and people think it's this and people think it's that, and that's going back to the things of with George Floyd. It's just that's the things where it's kind of do you not hear us when we speak, when we tell you this is not what it's about, but just because you have your opinion of no, but it is, but it's not. We are telling you directly, this is why, this is what it's for. But if you create your own narrative around it, then that's where it gets kind of, then it's kind of what can you do? And that's where I feel obviously tragic incident, but George Floyd has given a voice to more people, where it's hey, now do you understand why we are fighting for this? Why we want to take a knee? Why we, need more people of minority in upper management to, just to be able to point certain things out that, again, you don't know what you don't know. So if your company or your organization or whatever is just surrounded by one type of individual, white Caucasian male, or even on the reverse side, if it was just a company full of just black males or whatever, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to have that diversity to point out certain things that affects, everybody's lives, to be able to be inclusive of those people and stuff like that. So
absolutely. I was having a conversation with my boss around that same time, because our company, our president was should I say something to the staff? I'm the staff is 90% black. You probably should say something. He's white. I was you should probably have somebody read what you're going to send before you send it, because I don't want you to say the wrong thing and you got a bigger problem in your hand. But it's just funny how people just didn't get it before that particular situation happened. And it's just mind-boggling. I'm 30 years old. I've been dealing with this for 30 years. I got pulled over and discriminated when driving to college, and I got pulled out the car, and I was just scared for my life and going through stuff like that. We shouldn't be going through it.
I tell people and I always say these are the like that right there. That's the conversation that I'm sure plenty of fathers and mothers have had with their sons and people of color. Because I remember distinctly before I started driving back and forth to Iowa, my dad sat me down, and that was a deep, like probably one of the deepest talks we've ever had. It's just about what to do, what not to do in these instances. And of course, like, off the bat, it's like, hey, you should always be respectful of cops and things like that. But at the same time, like, there's always that decorum of like, hey, you have to go that upper, that next level of like making sure that you aren't seen as threatening.
Absolutely.
That you have to sometimes kind of cave into what makes you feel like a man or what makes you feel like a normal human being to make sure you come out of the situation alive.
Absolutely.
And I mean, where situations you see other people or other races where they're just hooping and hollering and not saying they're right, but it is kind of that double standard of like, why do we have to cave down to like back to slave mentality of like, where we can't even look people in the eye to make sure we can just go home and stay alive. Absolutely. Versus the latter. So, and that, it's real conversations and, and like going back to what your boss is like, I think that's things like that is kind of like, a statement as well. But in those instances, I think listening is even more powerful. It's like, hey, tell me how you guys are feeling. What do you think? Is our corporation, is our organization portraying a good message that we are inclusive, that we are in support of certain things and this and that? And I think that's what'll make, the world a better place, is just listening to your people.
Absolutely. And his message, like it wasn't like offensive or anything like that, but it was very dry. It was very like, I see what's happening. I sympathize for you. It's an open door policy if you need to talk to somebody about it. But also let's do our best to focus on work, because the kids that we cater to fall in this realm, in this part of the culture, who may be going through this as well. So let's utilize what we do as an organization to help support the cause. And I was just like, yeah, that's kind of a cookie cutter answer, but what are you going to do as an organization for us directly towards this cause? Like, we just telling us to just do our jobs better. It's not really hitting the mark.
And going back to that situation, like you just said, and like, I feel like that was one of the biggest things, especially with the Texans a little bit, where it's a situation where, of course, working anywhere, you gotta have the business side. Like, hey, like, we still gotta operate. This is how we make our dollars, all that stuff. I get that. But then you get to the reverse side of it. It's like, you can't just tell people just go back to work and it's like, oh yeah, it's open door, da da da. But it's kind of like, don't just kind of like gloss over it. Like, and that's where sometimes I feel like is the issue, where it just kind of gets glossed over, or the more important thing is about, the making the money instead of like genuinely about the people that you're with or the people that are for you.
Bro, I called that whole situation around, when George happened, like the week after all these businesses, the Black Squares, the Black Lives Matter, the Fist Up. I was like, this is the Black Lives marketing hour right now. All these businesses do not care. They're like, oh, we're about to donate $1 million to the cause. I'm like, where were you last year? Where were you last week? Where were you last month? You just taking advantage. I have a marketing degree. If anybody with a right mind in your organization will tell you to do the exact same thing, just to make sure you're on the right side of this conversation.
And that's where inherently it gets a little, when you go into deeper diving into it, it gets a little more convoluted, because you do it. And this is the sad part, because like you said, like, it takes the money to make change happen. Mm-hmm. Where if you think about the Washington franchise, like, for the longest, people have been clamoring about them changing the name of that. Mm-hmm. But until FedEx and all the bigger sponsors started pulling out. Now all of a sudden, now the conversation is being. So that's that, you know, and I agree with you on that level. It's a double-edged sword, because it's like, hey, look, if this is what has to happen to create change, I'm for it. And it does make you like kind of like side-eye a little bit, because it's like, well, are you really for the cause, or are you really just saying it because, you know, like you said, you're on the right side of history or whatever you want to say at that point. So that is the thing that does make you question certain motives. But at the same time, if that's what has to make change, I'm for it, because it's at least creating the change. And then it's up to us to keep holding people accountable to it. Or it's like, okay, like, yeah, if you want to market it or whatever to make yourself more money or whatever, that's fine. But as long as you're holding the standard, and, you know, not a year down the line, you're just kind of falling off the wagon. Like, nah, like, if you're for it, now you're for the cause, you know, like, and now don't just donate, but you got to actually show action. I need you to actually, you know, not just, you know, like you can donate money all day long, which is good. Not saying knocking people donating, but all right, what are you doing in your hiring practices? What are you doing of promoting people that have different opinions, different colors, and not and like, you know, like I think one of my biggest things, I hate saying just say hiring blacks or things with blacks, because like there's so many other cultures out there who go through the same things, but we're just the next biggest minority, really. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like, hey, like I always say, like, if I ever had my perfect company dream world, I want my company to look like the United Nations, where there's a person that you can look to somebody and relate to that person. Absolutely. And, you know, because you know, like, obviously, you know, people don't think alike. You know, like, you're exposed to one thing, you're exposed to this, you're exposed to that. So then when something issue comes up, you can have experience on it. But like, I can't go speak on, you know, issues that are happening in the Hispanic neighborhoods. I can't go speak on issues that are happening in Native American tribes and things like that. I'm down to listen. I'm down to help out, but only they can let me know. And that's where I feel like, yeah, we need to speak out, but then people have to listen and then help us take action. So.
I agree. Well, brother, I think this is a good point for us to end it with. It was a great conversation. We talked about a lot, how you got into the business, your whole life story, what you're doing now, then going into the conversation about Black Lives Matter and everything happening right now. I want to utilize this space for you to just tell the people how to reach you, what you got going on. You got a GoFundMe page or a Cash App. If you need somebody to help you out, I don't know, whatever. Just want to utilize the space for you. Just tell the people how to contact you.
Gotcha. I ain't got a GoFundMe page or anything like that, but like, I do have a nice little dental office here in Midtown Houston, Cosmetic Dental Texas, right here, maybe like walking distance away from Toyota Center. So, you know, if you got any issues with your teeth or want a better smile, come on down. Cosmetic Dental Texas. We're on Facebook, Instagram, website, everything like that. You can reach me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram at GWade05.
Yes, but his name is spelled with a J. It's very confusing.
It is spelled with a J.
Very confusing. Yes.
I'll let your fans in a little bit on why my name is spelled with the J, but I go by G. This happened like in middle school, where one of my basketball coaches couldn't pronounce my name, and then he was like, "You need a nickname. I'm gonna call you G." And then it stuck with me for years, and then I just started calling myself G for the longest, and it was like, but it starts with a J. I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm G.
Yeah, I was working at Toyota Center, and I had you participate in a promotional thing on the court, and I was just like, how do you spell his name? I'm like, Gen. And the whole stadium saw it. Q, you had one job.
That's right. You had one job.
That's awesome, man. But hey, brother, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you need anything, please reach out, all right?
I appreciate you having me, man.
All right, man. Have a good